Yeah, but the question is more, how do you get there? Do you get there by confrontation, violence?
Oh, is that the question you were asking?
Yeah.
See, that's another thing. When you talk about a revolution, most people think violence, without realizing that the real content of any kind of revolutionary thrust lies in the principles and the goals that you're striving for, not in the way you reach them. On the other hand, because of the way this society is organized, because of the violence that exists on the surface everywhere, you have to expect that there are going to be such explosions. You have to expect things like that as reactions. If you are a black person and live in the black community all your life and walk out on the street every day seeing white policemen surrounding you, when I was living in Los Angeles, for instance, long before the situation in LA ever occurred, I was constantly stopped. No, the police didn't know who I was, but I was a black woman, and I had a natural, and they, I suppose, thought that I might be a, quote, militant. And when you live under a situation like that constantly, and then you ask me, you know, whether I approve of violence. I mean, that just doesn't make any sense at all. In my neighborhood, all of the men organized themselves into an armed patrol. They had to take their guns and patrol our community every night because they did not want that to happen again. I mean, that's why when someone asks me about violence, I just find it incredible. Because what it means is that the person who's asking that question has absolutely no idea what black people have gone through, what black people have experienced.
What is your vision? What do you want to create for the people that does not exist? Leadership is about vision, and people ain't gonna get excited because you got a title, or because you got a suit on, or because you get to go to meetings with the president. They get excited because you have a vision of what you want to create for this campus, this community, or this country that doesn't currently exist. And beyond that, you inspire them, not just with your words of vision, but with your pragmatic strategy that says this is how we plug each other in to be able to get there. And then have the gangster to do it instead of just talk about it. It ain't rocket science. But it takes those things, vision, strategy, and gumption. Do you have that? Because so many of us are playing checkers, but the rest of the world is playing chess. You try to slide to the end like king me, and the world is like checkmate, nigga. Because only a nigga wants to be a king amongst people that don't have anything and not provide them with real leadership. Are you prepared to be on the chessboard? And on the chessboard, the pawn ain't mad at the rook, and the knight ain't hating on the bishop, and the queen ain't trying to be the king. Play your role. And understand that as you operate in your God-given ability and talent, if you're the most gangster pawn, you're setting up the bishop to be able to checkmate the king. And real gangster pawns understand that they have as much capacity to checkmate the king as any other piece on the board. But real chess players know how to play more than one game at a time, which means while you may be a pawn in one space, you can be a king in another. The question is, can you serve and follow and lead at the same time? Beyond that, how many of you were even thinking about running for office? Half of y'all are more brilliant than the idiots that are in your state house. Hello? Well, some of y'all. Why is this university being used as an incubator to build candidates? Getting some of these youngins off the block. Because they be philosophizing. No, dead serious. You show me a young person philosophizing, I show a young person that gives a damn. Because ain't nobody philosophizing about stuff they don't care about. And if they on the block philosophizing, teach them that what they're supposed to say. It ain't no difference. If somebody on the block philosophizing, somebody like, I feel you, dog, that's the same thing as a politician sitting at a podium saying, this is what I believe. Somebody saying, I agree. It's the same thing. Teach them that what they philosophize about the political platform. Take them in their circle and expunge their record the way white kids to get their record expunged. Take their homeboy that got their back ride and die and teach him to be a campaign manager. take their homegirl that's the only one of the three of them got any money and make her a finance director. Then take their homeboy that's on Facebook 23 hours a day and make him the technology director. Then take their boy from home parties and make him the coordinator of volunteers. And they put them in an incubator system where you give them stipends so that they ain't got to hustle on the block. And 18 to 24 months later, you got a group of young people prepared to run for city council, for school board, for mayoral race, for state legislative positions, and you've changed the feeder pool into these positions because the Democratic Party or the Republican Party are not creating apparatus and infrastructure for our babies to learn how to run for office and be in campaigns. Be sophisticated. Don't get played.
I personally got obsessed with watching the Zimmerman trial. I was at a bar, and I knew that the verdict was due because everything went silent. And that's when we started to check our phones.
Please be seated. I understand that we have a verdict.
In the Circuit Court of the 18th Judicial Circuit in and for Seminole County, Florida, State of Florida versus George Zimmerman. Verdict, we the jury find George Zimmerman not guilty. So say we all foreperson.
When I saw that George Zimmerman had been acquitted, I felt like I'd been punched in the gut.
When the George Zimmerman verdict hit, everyone was talking about it. And so you had this loud rise of voices. It almost became the OJ trial of the new century.
Many people were trying to make sense of what happened, but I felt like the ways that people were trying to make sense of what happened and what we needed to be doing about it were actually destructive.
Nobody asks your goddamn opinion. If somebody wants your goddamn opinion, you're the action.
How do we learn how to organize? How do we learn how to develop a set of demands that will actually transform conditions in our communities? I wrote a letter to Black people on Facebook saying that there was nothing wrong with us and we deserve dignity and respect.
I came across Alicia's post hours later. I understood there's this thing called a hashtag and you can make something go viral. And then I put a hashtag in front of it saying Black Lives Matter.
The moment was electric. Black Lives Matter was a brilliantly framed set of marching orders / slogan / plea. I can't pretend that I saw a movement coming out of this particular moment, but young Black people, they are plugged in and they're moving this conversation. They're driving this conversation.
It was taking off like wildfire, but people are really beginning to ask the question, is this just young people that are playing out on Twitter and in Facebook? Is this legitimate activism or just people using their phone? Is this a moment or a movement?